Hi, this is Dr. Sana Hashmi. I'm a fellow at the Taiwan Asia Exchange Foundation. And this week in my print Eye on China column, I mapped the Chinese discourse and analyzed Muhammad Yunus, the chief advisor of Bangladesh interim government to China. Muhammad Yunus has recently concluded his visit to Beijing, and his trip underscored China's growing interest in deepening ties with Bangladesh. And for years, Beijing viewed Dhaka as being within India's strategic orbit. This is something that has actually defined China's outreach to Bangladesh as well for a number of years. As Hasina's administration was more proactive, was more friendly towards India over China. At least that was the perception in China, and that's one of the reasons why Chinese government didn't really reach out to Bangladesh as much. They were reaching out, but also Bangladesh was much more favorable towards India, and the relation between India and Bangladesh were much more cordial than what it is today now. But now with this new interim government in Bangladesh, the dynamics are definitely changing. It's definitely shifting, and it's shifting in China's favor. So the chief advisor's visit to China is being seen as something that's very beneficial and favorable, and he's also being seen as a leader who could pave the way for increased Chinese investment in infrastructure as well as Bangladesh, as there is economic crisis going on in the country after um, Hasina's absence. So his visit has set the stage for China to now play a more central role in Bangladesh evolving geopolitical as well as economic landscape. And in fact, if we look back during Hasina's tenure, Bangladesh maintained a strong alignment with India. And of course, it was favorable towards Bangladesh as well. India was also very, being in the same region, being a neighbor, India was also very friendly and still very friendly towards Bangladesh. Now, the change in regime has kind of changed, altered the dynamics between India and Bangladesh as well as the South Asian geopolitical dynamics. So, according to some Chinese analysts, there is this idea that her administration prioritized India over Bangladesh foreign policy and over its relation with other countries. And the idea was that Hasina administration prioritized New Delhi's interest over deeper engagement with Beijing. So now, under Yunus interim leadership, there is this speculation that Dhaka may adopt a more pragmatic approach in balancing ties with both Asian giants, if at least it's not going to be more favorable towards Beijing. And there are other Chinese analysts who also argue that China offers Bangladesh crucial financial as well as technical expertise to support its development. And unlike India, Beijing presents itself as a partner that is more focused on economic collaboration, and there is no historical baggage and there are no political condition. This is the idea, this is the narrative that Chinese scholar, commentator, as well as media is trying to project. So Tian Feng, who is a director at the National Strategy Institute, Tsinghua University, he actually said that Yunus' visit signals that Bangladesh interim government is serious about strengthening ties with China, particularly economic cooperation. So there's this idea that now Yunus is more proactive towards China than India is something that is very, very common among Chinese scholars. This is a perception that has been propagated in the recent times, specifically when Yunus was in China. And with Yunus in charge, China has moved quickly to deepen engagement. The question is no longer whether China will expand its influence in Bangladesh or not, but rather how extensively and how soon. And I don't think we have any doubts about that. We are seeing how China, at least the optics were very much there. The photo optics, the idea that Bangladesh is now considering China as a reliable friend and prioritizing Beijing over New Delhi is something that was very, very common, uh, at least within the strategic community and the media. And China is actually making substantial financial commitments as well. It is investing billions in Bangladesh port, transport infrastructure, and industrial zones. At least the announcements have been made. And these efforts align with Beijing's broader strategy to establish firm foothold in the South Asian region. And we know that India is a major reason behind this strategy. In containing India is one of the major reasons behind China reaching out to Bangladesh. And despite China's growing involvement, I do feel that Bangladesh cannot afford to overlook its deep rooted ties with India. Geography, trade, historical relations, it all ensure that New Delhi remains a key player in Dhaka's foreign policy calculus. And India is also watchful right now. If you look at it as an, I do believe that India is the third party between in the room between China and Bangladesh. China is reaching out to Bangladesh primarily because of India to contain India. And Chinese commentators frequently discuss the so-called death triangle: Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan, China has been preparing Pakistan for decades and decades, and then now Hambantota under Chinese control, and now Bangladesh. So this the control over infrastructure in South Asian countries is being discussed or described as something that is a death triangle for India, and it is a strategic challenge to India's influence in the South Asian region and beyond as well. And apart from that, unresolved bilateral issues such as Teesta River issue have also contributed to Bangladesh engagement with China and also deteriorating relationship with India. So while Chinese investment, it does present an economic opportunity to Bangladesh, over reliance on Beijing could actually complicate Bangladesh regional diplomacy. For now, Dhaka appears to be navigating a careful path, perhaps capitalizing on Chinese resources, capitalizing on Chinese outreach to Bangladesh. It's also trying to maintain, or at least trying to reach out to India in some sort. And there were news that how um India didn't really accept Yunus' request to visit India before. And this is something that at least we have been hearing in the news that they at least want to reach out to India. However, I do believe that history has shown us that deep financial dependence on China comes with a cost and comes with a huge risk. Sri Lanka's economic crisis, driven in part by unsustainable debt tied to Chinese infrastructure projects in Sri Lanka, it does serve as a cautionary tale. And I do feel that Bangladesh has to take lessons from other countries' experiences, specifically with Chinese cooperation, economic cooperation, and infrastructure development. And if Bangladesh becomes overly reliant on Beijing's investment, it may find itself in a difficult position, in a difficult financial position. And it would be a position where sovereignty in decision making is compromised, and it will be compromised. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And striking a balance between economic opportunities and national interest will be very crucial. Then, in such a situation, we have to wait and see how Bangladesh choices in coming months are going to be shaped, and how it is going to shape its role in South Asia in this China India dynamics, and how it is going to navigate balance between China and India. Can it successfully balance relations with both India and China, or will it be drawn into a larger geopolitical context? I do feel that the answer will determine how the region strategic calculus is going to be changed, how India is going to view Chinese increasing foothold in the South Asian region. I don't think it's actually about China, Bangladesh. It's primarily about how China wants to contain India in the region, how China wants to expand its foothold in the region. And Bangladesh is just a piece in this Chinese South Asian strategy. So, in such a situation, I do believe that Bangladesh must carefully navigate this partnership, and playing against India may serve Chinese interest. And I do believe that Bangladesh is playing into Chinese hand right now. How it Bangladesh reaffirmed one China policy assertively, and I do believe it was very aggressive how one China policy was reaffirmed. And apart from that, how Yunus also mentioned in India's northeastern region while being in China. I think it was a very clear signal that China is trying to play Bangladesh against India. But then I think Bangladesh is also willing to be played in the hands of China, or in the Chinese government. So I do believe that it's okay for China. It's a game that Chinese are playing, but then for Bangladesh, it would come at a long term cost. And so, is it ready to play this game? I do not really think so, specifically when there is such social and economic crisis going on in the country. So, to conclude, I would say that maintaining equilibrium in this regional diplomacy is essential to securing Bangladesh economic strategic future. And I do believe that it has to reach out to India, and of fighting against India with China is something that it is just not feasible and beneficial for Bangladesh. And if we take into consideration this visit, at least this is something that Yunus tried to portray to India, that if you do not really agree to what we are saying, if you're not agreeing to the conditions that we are listing out, we are going to go to your adversary who you already have a boundary dispute. And I think it was nothing less than a threat to India. So I think it's very important for these South Asian countries to realize that India is a major power in the country. So it's important that they go out, reach out, and reap economic benefits from China. But then doing it at the cost of deteriorating their own relationship with a country like India, I do not think that it's feasible. It's something that's a beneficial strategy for Bangladesh in the long run. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.